Oh, he's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Bucky Barnes is coming to town. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. In the Falcon and the Winter Soldier premiere, it was revealed that Bucky has a list of people he wants to make amends with. Kind of like My Name is Earl, except with less karma and more brainwashing. But who was on Bucky's list exactly? And why do I get the feeling that making amends may not be as friendly as it sounds? Oh, and a quick word of warning. If you don't want to have a vibranium shield of spoilers hitting you in the face, I would suggest coming back to this video once you've watched the first episode. Bucky's introduction to the series was almost as action-packed as Sam's, with him having a flashback/dream sequence to his Winter Soldier days when he was acting as a hitman for Hydra. At the end of the flashback, we see Bucky walking up to an innocent civilian and killing him in cold blood before Bucky quickly snaps to. An undoubtedly chilling scene, but one that we didn't understand the importance of until later on. After a session with his therapist, Bucky reveals to the audience his amends list, and one of the names on there is Y Nakajima. Y Nakajima, as we later learn, is Bucky's new friend and wingman Yuri, who is mourning the loss of his son, who turns out to be the civilian that Bucky killed. As of right now, Yuri is both clueless as to how his son died and Bucky's part in it. But it is obviously eating Bucky up inside, and by befriending Yuri, he seems to be slowly trying to make amends by looking out for the old man. But it is unlikely that it will just end there, as it seems like Bucky has the burning urge to tell Yuri, but can't as of right now. How else this plotline will evolve through the series is unclear, but it's safe to say that there will be further developments, so please stand by. Bet you're sick of that phrase, huh? But out of all of the names on the amends list, one really stuck out. Zemo. Although they didn't explicitly say it, the H probably stands for Helmet, aka Baron Zemo, the antagonist for both Captain America Civil War and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that Bucky might want to try and make friendly amends with Zemo, seeing as his family were killed in Sokovia due to the Avengers, but let's be honest, it's highly freaking unlikely. The more likely reason Zemo is on this list is likely down to the fact that Bucky's metal fist wants to make amends with Zemo's face. Seeing as Zemo framed Bucky for the bombing at the UN, used his brainwashing code against him, and, split the Avengers into two factions, Bucky will likely have some unfinished business with the guy. Zemo's original plan was to kill himself after defeating the Avengers, but T'Challa wouldn't let that happen and imprisoned him instead. But, as we already know, Zemo is the main antagonist in this series, so he will probably be free and wreaking havoc soon enough, and both Bucky and Sam will be tasked with bringing him to justice. But although Helmet Zemo is the most likely person to be referenced on the list, he isn't the only one in the Zemo family that it could be. Helmet's father Heinrich has also held the Baron Zemo moniker and is also a villain of Captain America and Bucky in the comic books, and it is possible that Heinrich may have crossed Bucky during his Winter Soldier days. To be honest though, my money's still on Helmet Zemo. As I scrambled to make out the names on Bucky's list, and before I forgot I could rewind and freeze the frame, one of the first names I noticed was A. Rostov. Now, Marvel fans will know that this name could belong to two different but similarly named characters. Colonel Andrei Rostov, or Andrei with an I Rostov. Now let's start off with Colonel Rostov. Colonel Rostov, also known as the Red Barbarian, was a former USSR colonel and is known, among other things, for his love of brutality and vodka. Which one he loves more, I'm not sure. Colonel Rostov and Bucky cross paths in the comics when Colonel Rostov works at a gulag where Bucky is imprisoned and the two quickly become bitter enemies. Later on, Rostov moves to the Bahamas to live a life of luxury, and he is assassinated by a mystery sniper, very likely one Bucky Barnes. Now this is probably the most likely character the list makes a reference to, but as we said, there is still another Andrei Rostov that it could be. Andrei with an I Rostov is actually the former boyfriend of one Natasha Romanoff, until he became a Russian revolutionary under the codename Agamemnon and was later arrested. As we said though, out of the two, I'm thinking it's Colonel Rostov. Next on the list is the name P.W. Hauser, and this again has multiple potential people it could be. This could be a reference to Cobra Kai and I, Tonya actor Paul Walter Hauser, and I mean, it could be, but then again, I'm seeing these non-references everywhere. No, seriously, I was debating whether or not the Hitler cap is crushing in the picture in the Cap Memorial section is actually a reference to Taika Waititi's Hitler in Jojo Rabbit, seeing as Waititi played Korg and also directed Thor Ragnarok, as well as the upcoming movie Love and Thunder. Seriously, I'm still undecided. Ooh, maybe it's Mephisto! I just don't know anymore. Okay, anyway, back to the topic at hand. Another candidate the P.W. Hauser could be is Wilhelm Hauser. In the comics, Wilhelm Hauser was a general in the Nazi regime and worked under Hitler, not the one from Jojo Rabbit, and like Colonel Rostov, was known for his brutality. It would be understandable why Bucky would want to track him down, but to be honest, it is unlikely that the man is still alive. Another person it could be is Harry Hauser, a political commentator in the comic books who is a big detractor of Sam Wilson becoming Captain America, as well as a secret member of Hydra. Admittedly, the initials don't match, but you never know. Maybe it really was a reference to Paul Walter Hauser all along. Now, this next one is a little obscure, and again, maybe a bit of a stretch, but could the name C. Kuznetsov we see in the list belong to Dr. Kuznetsov? Dr. Kuznetsov was a Soviet scientist during the Cold War, with his main focus being on the space race. He even invented a sentient robot named Udarnik to help the USSR win the space race. But his efforts were in vain after the project was abandoned. Could this Dr. Kuznetsov be the one we saw on the list? Maybe, although it is unclear why Bucky would want to track him down, unless it's just a vague reference to an obscure Marvel character. Yeah, it's probably that now that I think about it. But it's not just Marvel characters that the list might be making reference to, with the name L. Kaminski being a likely reference to longtime Marvel writer and editor Len Kaminski. Kaminski worked on a number of titles in the Marvel gallery, including Iron Man, War Machine, and Ghost Rider 2099. But his most relevant link to the show is the fact that he created Bucky's sister, Rebecca. So it's unlikely that Bucky will want to track down and kill the man who created his sister, and instead it's probably just a sly reference. It's not just Marvel creators that this list is paying reference to, though, and one we have in mind is the name S. Whittaker. Comic book fans may know that Steve Whittaker worked on one of the greatest comic books of all time, V for Vendetta, alongside Alan Moore and David Lloyd, and is a legend in the comic book world. There is no real link between Whittaker and the show, at least not that I'm aware of, but it stands to reason that maybe the show felt like paying tribute to a man they greatly admired and respected. See, Marvel really can be wholesome sometimes. Now, to be honest, this is where I'm about to struggle. Overall, we still presumably haven't seen the whole list yet. There's still a bunch of other names on there. Confirmed names so far are F. Ganod, I. Talazar, N. Henriksen, N. Sari, T. Osman, M. Kaminski, and C. Holby. And to be honest, unless I missed something, I don't know who these people are and what they mean for the show. I know, I've let you down, I'm sorry. Perhaps we will shortly be enlightened, or maybe internet sleuths will crack the code for me soon, but as of right now, these are still an enigma to me. Unless, maybe one of them spells Mephisto? No, let's not start this again. Anyway, seeing as I still have some time, let's talk about some of the names that might have been on the list that we didn't get to see, shall we? That's right, it's theory time, because no harm can come from fan theories, right? Now, firstly, we need to talk about the elephant, or should I say Falcon in the room, Joaquin Torres. We saw Torres serve as one of Sam Wilson's closest allies in the opening episode, with him taking a pretty rough beatdown at the hands of the Flag Smashers. But Torres could have a pretty big impact in the MCU moving forward, seeing as, in the comics, he becomes the next Falcon and Sam may hand down his wings to Torres, like Cap handed down his shield to him. How and why he would be on Bucky's list, however, is still unclear. But the show could implement a backstory between the two characters that could involve Torres being on Bucky's list, although at the moment it isn't all that plausible. Another possibility could be Batroc the Leaper, played by former UFC fighter Georges St-Pierre. Batroc made his return to the MCU at the beginning of the episode in a high-octane action sequence with Sam Wilson, but managed to make it out of the encounter alive. Maybe he also ended up on Bucky's list and Bucky will end up tracking him down. Finally, though, could the people of Wakanda be on the list? After the events of Civil War, T'Challa and the Wakandan people took Bucky in and provided him refuge and gave him a brand spanking new arm. But since then, the people of Wakanda have suffered hard. Multiple changes in rulership alongside fighting off Thanos' invasion army could have left them in a state of disrepair. As we know, after Chadwick Boseman's untimely death, T'Challa will not be returning in the next Black Panther movie, leaving the country completely rudderless. Maybe Bucky will want to repay the people of Wakanda by helping them out. During his meeting with his therapist, he tells her that his time in Wakanda was the time he felt most at peace, and he now seems to have a deep bond with the country. So maybe we will see the White Wolf making his return to the African country in the near future. Ooh, and one thing we didn't see on the list or catch any sight of is Bucky's famous cat, Alpine. Thankfully, it's still early days, and as we see it, if Falcon can have Redwing, then Bucky can have Alpine. Forget the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Mephisto. We want Alpine.